What is up guys, Wraec is here with a new video, and today we have actually received a new update. Some of you might even have to re-download the app from the Play Store, which is something that really rarely happens in Idle Heroes. Usually there's just like those in-game updates and you're done with it. For a lot of people that might have been the case. I had two devices actually where I had to re-download from the Play Store. Quite interesting. So, the thing is though, we recently received this Aspen Dungeon update, which we already cleared, and interestingly, of course, Godsmaker as well, so congratulations for that. 2 people on my server now, very nice. And I don't want to leave this unnoticed. We haven't put enough coverage on this Aspen Dungeon update, because this in itself is probably enough content for another rant video, which will come. Be sure of that, so stay tuned, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We're going to talk about this Aspen Dungeon thing, because this was like a really lazy move by DH. But today is a little bit of a different thing that happened. So, well, we received this update, and on the first note, not much has changed in-game. There was one notable good change. I want to start with that. If you now go into Ethereal Realm, they have actually changed the fog that we had in there. So if you can see, there is are my troops, and I actually have this long streak now, and where I can still see what is in there. So this is when you have never seen the area, and if you've been to the area, well, the notable things are still there. You can't directly attack them, you have to go close to them first. This is one of multiple changes actually to the UI, some of them very, very nice. Like I always found it a bit clunky when you go and mine, which I think I can't do right now. Well, let me find a mine for a second. I think all my troops are already in there. They are all dispatched. You can see it right here, all occupied. So sadly I can show it. But the thing and the way it works right now is you click on the troop here, you click on the thing, you click on gather, and you can immediately click and send it there. Before that you had to select it from like a long list, and it was all a bit complicated. So they are still working on this, and this is like the probably the highest praise I can give them at that moment. They are working to improve this, and are making notable changes with things the community wants. So at that point, that is the high of this video. This is like the point where DH is probably at their best right now, and from now on it's all downwards, because now we come to the, well, not so great parts really from this video. There were some very weird changes, and I want to show you one of them. So this is actually on Reddit. It's a post by Piffle, very nice guy by the way. He made this post and he showed this picture, and a lot of you might actually have been greeted by this. DH Games User Registration Service Agreement and Privacy Policy. Very long word. And it asked you to agree. For this, gave you the option to disagree, and I tried. When you click disagree, the thing just reappears, so this button is basically worthless. You can't log in unless you agree. So basically agree to this or never play the game again. And they made some changes in to the game itself and to their privacy, or to this agreement as well. Because this agreement was in the game before. We had this agreement. You agreed to it when the game started. Nobody ever read it. I read it actually. It's a very long thing. It looks like this. Probably if we go into this, then you will not continue watching this video. The nice thing is Piffle has actually taken out the most interesting parts of this, so we can kind of reduce this wall of text down to some more interesting matters. There is one thing that I want to add to this, which is a little bit interesting. To the first things are DH now banning starry selling, really. It's quite interesting. They have most of the stuff is like the regular TOS stuff that you see on most games, which seems always a bit more threatening than it really is. Just like, yeah, DH Games owns everything, you own nothing, and we can ban you whenever we want, which is, depending on your country, not necessarily the truth. And for me at least, they could not just randomly ban me and decide that I now end the contract. This is just not possible, and would result in me actually having the option to sue them for some compensation that would hurt them way more than just continuing to have me on the game. So this is one thing. Depends really on your country. Country law is usually above such agreements. So the thing is, usually there was no real description or explanation about the way they handle Starry Gems. And in fact, DH has made one quite interesting advertisement that I sadly couldn't find. And this advertisement at the time included a player getting an A-0, selling that A-0, and then having money. So obviously indicating you could do some outside trading. There is no way in the game, if you check out the auction house, to get instant cash out of getting an A-0. That is not possible. The only way to get cash out of an A-0 is to sell that A-0 to a player and either do a trade there and get cash in that way, or to sell the Starry Gems that you get from this trade. So basically, DH with that showed that their plan really was to allow you to get money from the game. A little bit like those crypto games, really. And they really wanted that. And then they noticed that, well, the regular player does indeed sometimes get money from this game, which is pretty cool. It's not really an incentive for a lot of people to start this game. It was a little bit hard to market, it seems. And then they kind of went away from it, and all that left them were a bunch of people farming on thousands of accounts, doing it very professionally. And instead of having new players that come to the game in the hopes of earning money, then ending up spending on this game to complete events and getting a better account, they ended up with like farmers from different countries that just never spent on this game, just have thousands of accounts and flood the market with Starry Gems, basically filling the market with a ton of copies and, well, not really bringing them any money. In fact, these sales from the Starry Gem side dropped because, well, why would you spend on it? The SG prices, so the Starry Gem prices, are crazy in game. We have 2,500 Starry Gems for 100 USD, with some of the most crazy sales in the auction house, of course, being in the 600,000s of Starry Gems, which nobody really wants to pay for a copy. So really the people, in light of having the offer of going to the black market and getting Starry Gems for like 18 USD, 16 USD, something like this, for 2,500 Starry Gems, well, that is of course much easier. And then, well, after they noticed that, began a series of some serious, well, self-harm, I have to say. Self-harm of DH games, and we are already on the page of one of those examples of self-harm, really, which was the pink Starry Gems. This was, in fact, well, it was good for them in a way. I think it was one of the measures that kind of worked out in a way. They at the time, before they introduced this, they had a problem of people making accounts, coming to the game, so making like a new account, taking a credit card, buying a ton of Starry Gems, transferring them to another account, selling them to another player, and then calling their credit card company and refunding those purchases. So what then happened for DH was, of course, well, they had to take care of this. So they took the Starry Gems out of the account of those players, left them with negative Starry Gems. And oftentimes those players weren't even aware that they bought Starry Gems that then were refunded. So you had some whales ending with negative Starry Gem balances, which was horrible, brought some people to quit, and was like a situation that was, well, something you couldn't really continue. And it has another perspective too. Well, the other perspective of this is really that when you have so many refunds going on, this also costs you money. This also often costs you money, can bring you in problem with your payment providers. It is not very good for your business, so you better stop this. And the way they did this is they introduced this pink Starry, which is a Starry Gem that behaves like contract Starry Gems. So you can't really use it to buy stuff from the auction house. You can use it in the Starry Gem malls. If you go here, you could buy this with pink Starry. And every single player got like this rating. For example, this is mine. I'm at level 18, which is super high. And this allows me to exchange 14,201 pink Starry a day to normal Starry. So I can convert pink Starry to normal Starry. And the idea was that early game accounts, low level accounts that you just created, wouldn't be able to do this trick with the refund, because they in turn would have a very low rating, which allows them to only convert like 1 or 2 Starry Gems a day to pink Starry a day to Starry Gems. So basically what this did was it solved this problem. that I can say it solved this problem. Refund Starry is no longer a thing. But at the same time, it also was harmful for all other players that were in the early game. If you're now in the early game and you go on a new account, then you will face the problem that you won't be able to convert basically any pink Starry to normal Starry for quite some time. And if you then decide you are level, I think it's level 80, and you go into the auction market and maybe you want to spend a lot and you are not even really in the community, not even aware of the Discord servers, the black market and everything, and you just decide, I'm a rich person, I have a lot of money, I see a flashy copy in the auction house like an SSS Vesa. Vesa is my favorite hero and I want to get this. And those players actually would often find themselves buying Starry Gems directly in-game, being unaware of the black market, that is. They no longer can do that. So even those unexperienced players, those players outside of the community, find themselves in a situation where they buy 2,500 Starry Gems and then notice that the conversion of those to actually buy anything takes them months. If you only convert like 50 Starry Gems per day, which is more than a lot of players really can, then you will already take 50 days to convert those 2,500 Starry Gems. And if you try to get like an A-, we can scroll down here a little bit, maybe there's something interesting in there, I don't know. Tusilago was there. Like, let's say you saw this SFX, by the way, nice S-tier attack, pretty cool. And you want to get this, and you say, okay, I want to bid on it, and let's say it ends for 9k. Look at how long it already takes. You're already converting for like 4 months at that point. No, even longer, like half a year. It's crazy. So this basically ended unexperienced players buying Starry Gems, which were like their biggest group of buyers, I would say, after the black market really established themselves. So they cut this basically off, solving one problem and harming themselves a lot along the way, which is an absolute horrible thing, I would say. So that being done, they still noticed, the players, the farmers, they are not really going for this refund Starry. There are a lot of farmers that actually really going to have a lot of accounts, do their summons, get some free summons, and then be lucky and get like a nice copy that somebody buys, so they generate their Starry Gems in the way a normal player really would, just on a grander scale. So that then brought them to another problem. They wanted to get rid of those guys, because obviously if there are no farmers anymore, well, the amount of Starry Gems circulating on the black market will be severely limited, and thus the prices would rise, eventually leading to them being the sole Starry Gem seller again. Or like, well, maybe not the sole Starry Gem seller, but having like the situation when it was released, where rarely Starry Gems were sold. You getting like a Starry Gem deal on the black market was something rare. You would find yourself not trading with regular experienced traders, but with different people that were always a big problem, by the way. This was like a really horrible time. And in this situation, they wanted to come back to this where Starry Gems were like 70, 80 USD from the black market. And so making it more appealing to just buy it in game. And they then started to construct different measures to achieve this really. And the first thing they came up with was like nerfing Awakening Session, I think. I think this was like the first big thing. They nerfed Awakening Session. Several times they changed this stuff. Like the first thing that came to my mind then was this nerf that we really recently received, where we first had like, I think, one session around December where we had cores in there, those summoning cores. I don't know if I have one actually at the time. And we had B cores in there, and then they noticed, oh no, we have a ton of S tier copies coming to the auctions, because, well, those farmers, they actually save up Contract Starry for those Awakening Sessions. So they go in there and they get this core, because this core actually has so much higher chances that it's worth it, if you do it on a ground scale, to go for this core, because the amount of summons that you sacrifice in terms of Contract Starry in going for that, which, I mean, is not a lot, it's because you're really summoning at that point anyway, and getting like this B core is an absolutely insane value deal for a farmer. You will have a high chance to get this. And then we saw the auction house full of S tier heroes, which, by the way, if we check this out right now, I don't think is actually the case anymore. We don't really have too much in there. We have a few. This is like still a decent situation. Quite recently I looked into here and I was a bit shocked to find like 1 S tier and then going straight to A-, which was, I think that is a bad situation. We didn't have Awakening Session for way too long. And they noticed that the lowest tier, like the tier everybody achieves, where you just have to get over the threshold, which was like 250 points or something, that there were a lot of farmers in there. So they nerfed those rewards. They didn't nerf the top rewards for the whales really, but they nerfed those low-end rewards. And a lot of players were rightfully angered about this because they like to get this score. Getting a B- or in the pre-nerf state, a B tier with a nice chance to get a B+ or an A-, that is actually something huge. That is very, very nice. You get a new hero, you hammer the core on there, you now have a nice copy that you can go with. So that being nerfed to a B- is such a severe nerf. Like the chances to get an A tier from a B- are super low. It's like pretty much impossible. So a lot lower than from a B core. And this really hit normal players. There was anger on the streets being Reddit mostly, and Discord. And so players at that point really demanded for change of this. And quite recently we have seen the next step in that, which also sadly I can't show at the moment because I think I burned those copies. Not burned, I made them into contract Starry. So what they did then is they made account-bound cores. We saw them in this new event with the cards. And those account-bound cores were the next step they wanted to take. And to this day, we still have to see the extent of this measure. It can be good, it can be bad. This has not fully developed itself yet. Account-bound means you can't sell it on the auction house. So basically you get a B- core, for example, you summon this B- copy, it will have a little hammer there, and that means it can never go to the auction house. In theory, nice thing, because you can just put a core into, well, an event or something, can reward players with it, and don't have to fear that it interferes too much with the market. In fact, you can just say, okay, we could put, let's say we make a huge event and we make a Black Friday event or something, and we put at the top spot an A- core that is account bound. If you do that, it won't impact the market really, not too much. It's okay. I mean, players will buy a little bit less because obviously some of the demand will be met with this A- core, but really, it at least on the outside perspective, doesn't really change too much. It's okay. And players would be very happy about this. So this is like the best case scenario. You give players that otherwise maybe don't have access to an A- or access to nice copies, access to those copies through events. Would be great. The fear is, though, that they might go and make Awakening Session just that, account-bound cores. And maybe on the lower end, maybe on the higher end, we yet have to see, and try to hit the farmers that way. It is an ongoing theme that they try to hit farmers in some way or the other, and on their way of doing that, hit the normal players, and really that is self-harm. That is self-harm because whenever they hit the normal players, they lose players. And in my opinion, the right way was always to just say, okay, we lost this. We just screwed it up. Keep everything as is. Make the game interesting through players by giving nice rewards. You don't have to be careful with cores or anything. You don't have to be hesitant to give out cores and nice copies if you don't make money from the auction house anyway. As a game developer, I would see this as an opportunity. An opportunity to give out nice rewards for players. Give them an A- score. What's the harm? I mean, you didn't make money from the A- in the first place, didn't you? There are some unexperienced players who still buy in-game, but really everybody should go to the black market. It's just cheaper. So, I would just use that. But instead, they nerfed Awakening Session, which ended with players being unhappy. They then brought this account-bound course, which might end up with players being unhappy, at least if they implement it in the wrong way. And now for the next step, it's also something that's a bit hard to show. They started banning Vietnamese players. It's now you ask, why did they ban Vietnamese players? Well, the simple answer really is they banned Vietnamese players, sadly not for Flame Shrine. They banned Vietnamese players because a lot of farmers are from Vietnam. So What they then did and try in an attempt to like get rid of those guys was they banned those Vietnamese players just because they thought they might be farmers, and you didn't even have to like have a lot of stuff or a lot of reasons for them to think that you are a farmer. It was just enough for them that you came from Vietnam, and then they just randomly banned a few people. And I thought it was just too ridiculous. It was just too funny, and not for the Vietnamese players, obviously, because they didn't do nothing, and DH just randomly decided to ban them. It was a horrible decision. And yeah, this just ended up with, again, a few angered players and no real solution to this situation. Well, because in the end they banned a few players, but there are thousands of accounts on the auction house. I mean, at this point, you can buy basically any copy in the auction house. Let's just try it. It's just such an easy thing to demonstrate. We just go for buyout price, and we go for, let's say, C tier. We go for C tier, and we buy this one. So there it is. Let's see who we bought it from. That might actually be a real player. Of course, for the demonstration. Let's just buy another one. Can't take that long until we reach some weird account. That's a Vietnamese person. They all have the same picture, though. That's interesting. Let's try that again. Yeah, it's again the same picture. Okay, it makes me think that those are all fake names. But you never know. So oftentimes they have like numbered accounts. They had really numbered accounts with like big numbers behind them. But it didn't solve that. There are a ton of farm accounts. You can't just buy a single player's account, especially not well cultivated account. They banned some Vietnamese whales. That was ridiculous. And in the end hurt themselves more than anything else. Now the last step, the step they took today, which after 20 minutes we reached, my god, this video is way too long, was not only this message where you had to agree to their new terms of service and the terms of service changes we just talked about, but also some players found themselves having to enter captions. A lot of times I was told when you try to go from one account to another. So if you had like an account on server 48 and one on server 33 and you wanted to switch between those, then often you have to enter those captchas. And one thing I found quite remarkable, those captchas, they are not often used anymore. It's like quite an old way to verify. Because, well, a lot of AIs can now identify them and type them in. Image AIs have become quite sophisticated. I, on my phone, personally noticed that I could just click on any text and copy it from any picture. So that was something. And some of the worst ones, I think this one that No7 sent me, I have no idea. Maybe it's YPURH, like that is a weird H. Don't even know. And that is another one. They're just weirdly hard to notice. He says he needed like multiple attempts to really get through this, and it was a bit weird. So I don't really know. I mean, those captions, they are obviously designed to keep players from switching between accounts with a macro, so you could no longer have one account with like 20, 40 sub-accounts and switch between them through a macro and let one macro handle like your entire account. It basically blocks a farming way. So this is like the topic of this. The last thing that I really want to note, and after I've detailed this story in that sense, is one more change to the DH Games Terms of Service that I noticed. So they are once again back in this long text, and I will read it up for you because it's a bit hard to zoom in on this text. What they're talking about here is basically once you purchase virtual items or virtual currency, if you order licenses for virtual items or virtual currency from DH Games that become unavailable, they can be provided to you. You can request that can't be provided for you. This is weirdly worded. You can request a refund of the purchase price of the transaction. So far, so good. Basically, if you can't get something that you bought, you can request a refund of the purchase price of the transaction. Interesting thing though, if we check out the 2023 version of this, and I have it right here, and this is even a little bit easier to read maybe, we have the same text with a before. Before. I overread that. Nice. If you order licensed voucher items or virtual currency from DH Games that become unavailable before they can be provided for you, your only remedy is to request a refund of the purchase price from the payment processor of the transaction. So this part of the payment processor of the transaction, that now fell out of here, of the TOS. So basically what they want you to do now is to come to them and ask them for a refund, which is interesting. It reflects the way they have taken care of refunds in the past. The way it was like you always have the option to go to your credit card company to request a refund. They usually offer this. The other way to do this is to get a refund through Google Play. And at that point, it may be noticed that as soon as you put Google Play out of the equation, your chances of refund are reduced a little bit. So if you often pay through Xsolla, you can PM Xsolla. I was told they're not good with this, and they don't regularly offer you a refund. Google is, however, pretty good with this, and they allow you to refund quite a lot. So as soon as you buy your tickets, for example, for Xsolla, take the 5% refund, Google is out of the equation. So this option at that point vanishes, which might be something you want to take note of when deciding if you go through Xsolla to buy a pack or if you go through the regular Google Play version. And they now want you to come to them. And well, if you did a refund through your credit card, through Google Play in the past, they banned your account. And they banned your account for no reason whatsoever, which I think is still the case. It's still for no reason whatsoever. In my country, it would still be illegal. And they now want you to come to them, ask them for the transaction, which of course that's this situation they can deny. I want to make sure you understand that even though this says you can request a refund of the purchase price of the transaction, while you always have the option to go to them, this does never include your option to go to Google, to go to your credit card company and ask them for a refund. You always have that. So keep that in mind, even though this change is in here. And it's quite an interesting one. What do I think overall? I think DH is on a strong way to shoot himself in the leg again in their combat of the fighters. It's a bit like Ahab fighting his white whale and in the hunt of it's mostly consuming himself, really. And I think it is a bit concerning when this update seems to have been more of a focus than the recent content update, which is confusing to me. It is a bit weird. So I would hope DH just gives up on this entire thing and just goes back to releasing content, hopefully good ones. And maybe, well, it would be nice if you talked a little bit. Like, I think most people didn't even understand Ethereal Realm. But who am I even talking to at this point? I don't think they even watched this video. So this is one thing to note. I hope you liked this rant video. If you are curious for what I'm about to say about Aspen Dungeon, and subscribe to the channel. This is a video I plan for the next days. This is like an entirely different rant. It's interestingly enough. I kind of enjoy it, to be honest. I'll be real with you. I kind of enjoy it. I kind of enjoy just ranting out a little bit about those topics, and the age gives me ample opportunity to do so. So in that part, maybe I enjoy the game right now more than ever before. So very nice thing. With that, I wish you guys a great day. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed the video, and we'll see us in the next one.